Hey, this is Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures, and you're listening to the ghost host, Sophia Temperilli, on liveparanormal.com.
Today we welcome filmmakers, co-producers, and paranormal investigators Kendall and Vera Whelpton. They joined forces with ghost hunter Steve Gonsalves in directing a decades-long investigative home haunting film, The House in Between. Everyone visit thehouseinbetween.com, at Kendall Whelpton, at Vera Whelpton, at Steve Gonsalves Official, Facebook, The House in Between Doc. Let's welcome them into the show.
Thank you for having us. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys? And congratulations on the release of The House in Between.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Hey, congratulations on your 9 years of being on air. That's a big number. That's
Absolutely. Awesome. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, thank you. I started at 12, so it's been pretty crazy to be here now at 21.
That's
awesome.
But, I started in the paranormal at a very young age. But what kind of initially led both of you to have an interest in the field and, later on actually make a documentary?
Yeah, so for me, early on, probably when I was growing up in Scottsville, New York, I had a group of friends that we would always do these adventures and kind of explore around the town. And one of our adventures was sleeping in an old railway tunnel that had cemeteries on each side. So we kind of slept in the cemetery there. Didn't really know about ghost hunting until later on when I moved to Colorado. I moved into an apartment that I later on found out was an old hospital. And I started having some pretty crazy experiences in this place. And then after that, I just kind of was super into the paranormal, ghostly, and in UFO actually, because out in this old town called Fairplay, it was kind of out in the middle of nowhere. A lot of people used to talk about their experiences with UFOs, and I lived in this old hospital, and there was a lot of a lot of stories about that place. So later on, when I moved to Los Angeles to become a camera guy, really, I started doing my filming there, and then that's when I found the the Craigslist post for an employment job, a show gearing up fast. It was a ghost show gearing up fast. It didn't say the name of that ghost show or anything. It just was just kind of vague, and I applied to the ad, and then later on got a meeting, and I got hired on the spot, and it was Ghost Hunters. And about 3 days later, I ended up flying out to the first location, which was in Savannah, Georgia, and that's where I met Steve, Jay, Tango, and the rest of the TAPS crew at the Sorrel Weed House, and that was my very first case. And 15 years later, here I am doing a documentary with Steve.
Well, that's amazing that, you had that progression. And how about you, Vera?
It was a little similar. I grew up in a house where talking paranormal was very common. My mother is a doctor. My dad was a genetics professor at the State University back home. And the two were very scientific minded people, but they both grew up in haunted houses. So I grew up listening to the stories. And not only, my dad's, also like their brothers. Like they would come over sometimes and tell each other ghost stories or paranormal experiences they've had when, that topic always came up. So it was so normal for me. My dad had a huge library, and there was always that paranormal section of books that talked about life after death and, creepy stories from, urban legends, all kinds of stuff. So anyway, I had a childhood where the paranormal topic was very common. Growing up, I had a few experiences, but nothing crazy. Just, random things here and then. It wasn't until I was late in my late 20s that I had a really profound experience. And it was related to after my dad passed away. I was working as a nurse in a nursing home, and I won't go into details because it's very long. It's still very emotional. I haven't even talked about the story for 15 years until now that is coming out because of all these PR questions. But I had a profound experience that led me to wonder about life after that. So I was in Washington State. I moved to Texas, and, you know, I'm a new nurse working. I'm finally getting some money, so I get cable, and I have the Sci-Fi channel, so I find Ghost Hunters. And I was also watching Paranormal State at the time. I was drawn to these shows because I wanted to know if somebody else out in the world had these experiences like me. And eventually, I saw the commercial on Ghost Hunters about the Ghost Hunters Academy, and I thought this would be a wonderful opportunity for me to learn. I want to learn about all this stuff because I didn't know anything about paranormal investigators and tech equipment, none of that. So I just knew the topic. And then I applied for Ghost Hunters Academy, and I got called. The first time they didn't call me, they called me the second time. And then I arrived, and that's how I met Kendall. That's how I met Kendall. He was working on Ghost Hunters Academy.
Well, it's great that you guys, you know, both had these experiences and came together through them and just kind of figuring things out. And it's great. And now you're here promoting the documentary that you guys co-produced together. What kind of initially led you to wanting to make the documentary? And can you tell everyone a little bit about it?
Yeah. So a few years back, I want to say maybe 3 years ago, Vera and I started Robot Ninja Media, our production company, just out of wanting to do documentaries and some branded content, and kind of do our own thing as far as working together as a company. And for me, I had been a camera operator and a director of photography for many years in TV. Doing shows like Wicked Tuna and Ghost Hunters Academy, Ghost Brothers, and so I kind of wanted to branch out and start doing some more documentary formatted stories. And sure enough, I get a call from Steve Gonsalves, and we hadn't talked in a few years, and we had worked very closely together, really great friends, and he had checked in to, you know, kind of caught up, and then he's like, well, you know, listen, I got this house that's in Mississippi, and it's a pretty interesting place. And that's when he started telling me all the history of it and some of the evidence that the investigation team had captured over the years, and we kind of started chatting back and forth. And then Steve's like, yeah, and when I went to the house, you know, I had this experience of, you know, the house interacting with me on command. And I was like, wait a minute, what? And he's like, yeah, I had a personal experience there. And I was like, holy cow. Well, Steve, I know him for many years. He doesn't have many experiences, if not any. And so, yeah, I really perked the interest in, you know, we got on the phone with the homeowner, Alice, about her house, and she started telling us some stories. And then we talked to Brad and John about the house, and they were the investigators that had taken over. So basically, Alice's story, we found out, was you know, you have this woman, Alice Jackson, who lives outside of Jackson, Mississippi, and she lives in a very small town, a very historic town. She found a lot of land back in the 90s, and she wanted to build her dream home. So she got to the building process of building that dream home, and that's when things started happening immediately on the construction site. There was claims of things going missing, strange occurrences by the construction crew. And Alice really didn't think much about it. She hadn't really ever experienced anything paranormal in her life. She thought probably that the workers were, you know, just misplacing their things, you know, or whatever that was happening. She never thought once paranormal. it wasn't until the house was finished and some of those things started happening to her personally in the house. That's when she started saying, well, it's kind of odd. There's definitely something going on here. And so fast forward a few years after that, and she's starting to have the activity starting to ramp up. The house is starting to get heavily active, and she starts experiencing some more profound experiences that start to scare her. And so she's left with, she's starting to get very scared of the house. She wants to stay there, but it's just getting to the point where she's starting to believe that there's paranormal activity happening at the home. And it wasn't shortly after that she had a major experience, and it was with these lights. She had a major experience with some lights in the house that just defied the laws of physics, and she just, that was it for her. She ended up saying, that's it, I don't want to stay here anymore, and she moved out of the house. And she went to live with friends, and then shortly after she moved in with her boyfriend. And so the house is there, and what's she going to do with it? She has this huge problem. I mean, you have strange things happening at the house, and she doesn't know what it is, so she starts talking to people. She starts talking to her friends and opening up about it. And
I found that fascinating. Let me just cut you off for a moment. I found that fascinating that the typical story of haunted houses, you know, people get scared and they move away. They move out. They leave and they sell it, and they don't want to know anything else about it. But Alice was so brave. Yeah, she moved out. She refused to spend the night, but she comes and visits the house. She's there most of the time during the day. She just doesn't stay the night. And also, she didn't sell the house. That was very interesting. She wanted to invite people that knew about that field, and they literally, she opened the doors and says, come over and investigate. I need answers. I want to know what that is. I need validation for my story. And that story, me as a producer helping Kendall in this film, I became very attached to her story, because she's also a nurse, like I was when I had my experience happen. So I felt for her, and I wanted to join the team in searching for answers.
Exactly, and that was the interesting part for this whole story, is that that Alice, she didn't leave her home. Right, Vera, exactly. She didn't leave her home. She didn't sell it. She actually took the keys and handed it over to Brad and John, local investigator. Actually, John, who was a local investigator, and Brad came along later after seeing some news documentation done on the house. So yeah, here you have a house that has major activity in it, and the investigators move in, and that's where the real decade long of investigation starts. And the paranormal investigators, Brad and John, have numerous experiences and documentation, and they bring people in, and they have experiences. So you have this house that other people are experiencing the same stuff that Alice has experienced. So, and they just start gathering this information, and that's when, fast forward, Steve gets involved, and the documentary starts. And so the whole goal of the documentary is to try to move Alice back into the home, try to help her, really. We knew the place was having activity. It wasn't in our place to go and say whether it's haunted or not. We were just very interested in Alice's story, and I think that's what was fun about this documentary. Was it was kind of a different approach in your normal paranormal story, like a TV show or a movie that a lot of these shows focus on the activity happening, and really the personal story of Alice was our main goal, to tell that human interest story.
Think about it. I mean, Steve calls you because he's curious about a case. I mean, there has to have a lot of pull to it, a lot of strength to it, because
Absolutely.
Steve doesn't get scared, he doesn't get spooked, he doesn't get impressed by just any story.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, he's worked in the field for so many years. And with this case, I know you can't reveal too much. People should check out the documentary. But what was the most interesting or kind of the scariest experience that you saw happen or someone told you happened at the residence?
The end.
Yeah, the end is that 12 minutes of just uncut, raw
footage.
Footage, documentation of a personal experience at the house says everything. So yeah, the ending, as you saw, it was pretty profound and definitely interesting and unique and just it had me running around scratching my head for sure.
And I know you were talking about working with Steve and also Brad and John, but what are the individual roles of the investigators, and who are some of the other crew behind the scenes?
Ooh, that's an awesome question. So yeah, Steve and I directed the film. We produced the film, and Brad and John were investigators. They were the investigators for 13 years, I think now.
Oh wow!
Alice is the homeowner. She's owned the home since she built it. Let's see. We had in the field when we shot the film, we had Mike Peebles, who was our audio guy, who had done paranormal shows. Steve and I early on wanted to handpick a crew that was just the best of paranormal, and with our experience being in production, we were able to do that with some of these guys, because we really needed people working with us on this project to be, number one, seasoned and professional, but number two, very kind about the story. We had it was a very personal case, and we just we needed somebody with that experience, and especially coming into Alice's home for so long, and when we do these documentaries and these programs, we take over. So we set up shop and just we basically take over the house, and it's a full production, and we needed people that were going to be okay with the long hours and the contamination issues even. So yeah, it's a very tough thing to find people that can be quiet during an investigation, believe it or not, that know the investigators every need as far as when they're doing an audio recording session. So we got Mike Peebles, we got Eric Johnston, who helped me with camera, myself, we got Steve in there, and it was a small crew, a small footprint. We all did a lot of different jobs, and that was very important. On the production end, Vera was behind the scenes back here in South Carolina, lining things up, which was amazing. We would follow a lead. Somebody would figure something out in the house, and we're like, well, this is going to need attention from a particular professional. So
he'll call me. He'll call me at the end of the shoot and say, okay, this is what happened, and then we'll be like, okay, because of this just happened, then we need this, and that, and then I would just get on it and try to get it. And I have to say, it was amazing. Yes, we got the door shut on our faces many times. We were rejected as soon as we said the word paranormal. It was no thanks, bye. But many people did come through and helped, and it was amazing seeing that unfold as Kendall was filming.
And unfolding,
I can imagine.
It was a different way, a different approach. Really, we documented in a very linear fashion, which is hard to do because you're literally taking one event and leading to the other, to the other, to the
Yeah,
other.
it's totally
following.
not scripted. Yes, and then I literally felt like that girl in Ghostbusters that goes, "We got one," you know. We got one saying,
Yeah.
We got one saying yes, you know. They're gonna do the interview, and we got this person. They're coming to the house, and here we go. It was amazing.
It was challenging, but it was fun. I mean, we were able to. You pull. I can't, like, Vera. It's just like, hey, do you think you can pull this off? And it was just like, she's not going to be able to do it. It's 12 o'clock at night. How are you going to get, this person in here in the morning? And, like, sure enough, she's just locking people down to get them to come in so we can continue filming. It was just amazing. The whole process of the film, making the film was really, really magical and different. And I think it came across in the story, and it was part of it,
And, with getting all those interviews for the film, what was it kind of like making sure you got the most accurate interview? I know that there are so many actual paranormal experiences out there, but there are so many people that just like to tell stories. Was that hard for you at all, being able to differentiate between the two, or did you just were able to find people that were very reliable?
Oh, that's a very good point. With my experience on all these ghost shows, doing this for a very long time, I'm a trained eye by now that I can tell when a story or something just isn't adding up, or it just seems a little more fabricated. Now, I'm not an expert, and I take every story credibly, but there's definitely signs of things that you gotta scratch your head and be like, So having that experience, along with Allison, John, and Brad, basically having experiences with these people. When you have multiple people experiencing the same thing at the same time, and them all, their stories all adding up, because we separated them on camera. We interviewed them individually and asked them all their stories. And we did that early on. That was one of the very first things we did, was start to interview people. And so, you didn't really give people time to manipulate stories and fabricate things or any of that. So you were getting their raw stories. I mean, some of these people didn't even know each other, and their stories are very similar to the other person's story. So it was neat to see that there was a consistency in the activity and a consistency in the story. And then in the edit, you can see all of that in front of you, and you can, the edit is the microscope. So you get to really see, people's facial expressions and, whether they're fabricating the story. I mean, it's a true thing. There's people that have trained eyes to see when people are lying. They look up to the left, or they look down, or you can spot that later on. So it was a big risk going in there. Steve's got his reputation. I have my reputation, and in my company's reputation. So it was something we took very serious going in. And I remember the first day, Steve and I running through the house when we got there. Nobody knows about this, but we went through and we're looking everywhere we were looking in the walls, and, upstairs, downstairs, under the bed, like anything that could be a possibility of some trickery. We're going into this and we're going to figure it out, because our goal the whole time was to tell the story. So if that was the story that was going on there, that was the story we were going to tell. And that would have been a very sticky situation if that was the case. But Steve and I quickly discovered that was not the case at all. Steve as a trained eye, me as a trained eye, our credibility on the line, we realized that what these people were saying was probably the truth.
Well, it's great that you took that time and care to, figure out what was true and what wasn't, and see what was debunkable and what wasn't. Because I know that is very important in the field, to find out the truth and see what is explainable and what isn't explainable, because that is really just the catalyst of the paranormal, is what can you do to kind of take some of the fear level out? Is it simple, a door creaking that just wasn't hung properly? Or is it something more than that? What can you do to ease the fears of the homeowner?
Yeah, that's the number one goal. I mean, it was Alice's journey to get Alice to move back in. If we could figure out from somebody that was a professional that, yeah, it was a creaky door, or yeah, it was a faulty light switch, and not us just saying that. I mean, I'm not a professional electrician. I'm not going to be able to say, well, yeah, it's probably the electrician. No, we want to get professionals in there and actually look at the physical properties of stuff that's happening at the house. And, you know, even to go as far as to talk to scientists about theories and some of the possible stuff and show them the evidence that's happening there and get their take on it. So, like, we really, you know, Steve and I early on said, let's just do this different. We have the time. We have the ability to, like, track this down like a detective story. And we really hit it with that pinpoint focus. Is we became the detectives telling the story, but we weren't the ones that were on camera doing it. So it was neat to have a different role, especially for Steve, you know, as he's usually on camera, and you got to see him, you know, as a director, and myself as a director, us working together. It was really, really pretty cool.
And I know we have to take a quick commercial break, but we'll be right back with more questions.
This is author Alexandra Holzer, and you're listening to Ghost host Sophia Temperilli.
Hi, this is Jeff Belanger, host of 30 Odd Minutes, founder of GhostVillage.com, and author of lots of your favorite paranormal books, and you're listening to the Ghost host, Sophia, on LiveParanormal.com. Boo!
Hey, this is Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures, and you are listening to the Ghost host, Sophia Temperilli, on LiveParanormal.com.
Congratulations, Sophia. 9 years of broadcasting as the Ghost host on LiveParanormal.com.
Thank you both again so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
So I know you guys were talking about Alice's house and how she had recently built it, and that's when she started experiencing activity. I know you go over so much in the documentary, but for the audience listening, were you ever able to uncover anything about the previous history of the land that she built the house on?
Ooh, that's $1 million question that everybody's asking.
That is. Yeah. Go ahead, take it, Vera. Yeah.
No. I mean, of course there's history. There was so much information that we could not possibly, there was just not enough space on the dock to put everything that we uncovered, especially because even after filming, I mean, Kendall did the first round, we went back, and I, for the second time, I was able to go back, and that's when I met Alice and Brad and John in that beautiful home, and even then, we finished the moment because of what happened at the end of the film that is so detrimental. We had to definitely go back and film some more. Then we went back home, and we're still getting calls about different things happening, different events. I'm trying to talk here without giving anything away, and it's kind of difficult. But to answer your question, I mean, yes, of course, there is a lot of history. I mean, that is Mississippi, that's Florence. We did uncover a lot of things, and that's why, I mean, there's talk. People are asking for a part 2. I don't know. I won't even get into that. That's going to be the decision of Kendall, Steve, and Miss Alice. But yes, there is a lot of history. I just don't know. Thinking about how we work on the story arc and trying to put the story together, that it makes sense.
We told the brief history of Florence, Mississippi. Now, this is a small town in Mississippi, Florence. It's a very tight-knit community in the Bible Belt, and we did tell the story briefly about what the town is about. But as far as the history in the film, as far as what's related to the land, we do have a lot of history and stuff, but it was hard to pin it down to an exact thing that could be an exact possibility for paranormal activity. Now, we did talk about the land and how there is how there is minerals in the land and water. We talked about water, but as far as the geology of the land, we didn't get anything that was concrete enough to really put into the film. And
to make a
really
stroke
stuck
point,
to,
and also that was one of the areas that we got rejected a lot by geologists, believe it or not. And it was difficult, how do you explore that when you don't have people that are wanting to talk to you because you're exploring the paranormal topic. It was a little sad. I'm hoping that after they see our work and the more people feel more comfortable also coming forward and trying to help in this field. As far as the history that you were talking about also, Kendall and I talked during post-production that we didn't want to take away from Alice, from her her story, her personal experience. So that's why we also didn't put a lot of emphasis into the history.
Yeah, I completely understand, like Kendall was saying, with the land and the geology, there's so much history even before there were homes there. I know where I live, it used to be farmland, so there could be so many causes of paranormal activity from times when there just were no records to be able to explain some of it.
That's right. That's correct.
I mean, in the film, you see us go down that route trying to find information about the history of the land, and as you know, watching the film, you're right along with us when we go talk to Miss Mary Alice, who is the town historian, and try to track down records. So, it's a journey, and it's really interesting too, because I didn't realize that the whole town history is all in that little place, what is it called, the carriage house, or in Florence. It's just a little storage place, and all the information's there, and Mary Alice is in charge of all of it. So she is actually the living knowledge of the whole town, and I found that very fascinating. You think that a town that is so historic like Florence would be, they'd have their records backed up on an archive or something, but no, it's all right there. And, a long time ago, a lot of the town, had some tragedy, and some of those records might have been lost. And, it's just interesting to see that, you think that locating history would be a lot easier, but in fact, it's if we don't start documenting some of this stuff and start, scanning some of these documents and getting this stuff organized, you could end up losing whole towns or whole cities' history. It's kind of scary.
For sure. I mean, there's so many towns that, since they've been built, have had fires or floods, and so much of the history is just washed away with that. I mean, old movie studios have lost rolls of original film from the 30s to 20s just due to fires or damage. There's so much history that can be lost just due to lack of care or a complete freak accident.
Yeah. I mean, it's
sadly
something that I would have never even realized until stepping into the Heritage House in Florence, where all those records are. And talking to Mary Alice, it was just eye-opening to see that.
Well, she's just beautiful. What a wonderful lady. What a beautiful soul.
Oh man, and she's the one that in the teaser, we ask her, "Do you believe in ghosts?" And she's like, "Do I believe in what?" It was pretty awesome. I love her. She's so funny. And then her story at the end is just amazing. We loved her. put her in the end of the credits.
With dealing with the afterlife, I know it can be sometimes tricky. Sometimes there's good spirits, sometimes there's bad spirits. Is there anything that either of you did as means of protection before going to the location, or just while investigating?
Oh, well, that's a very personal question. That's okay. Yeah, I'll open up to you for that. So yeah, as the filmmaker going out there, this was going to be a little different project than I'm used to. I'm used to working on ghost hunters and going in and I was going to spend a lot more time at this place. So, I think Vera and I did a little prayer before I went out there. And so for me personally, I'm not ghost hunting. I'm documenting the story and the investigators' stories, but I am in it with them. Deep, I'm right there, so I might as well be an investigator right there with them. During that time, there was a moment where Alice started getting scared, and she found some strength in a little prayer that she usually says when things start getting active. So, we chose to show that in the film of Alice saying that little protection prayer because I think that's something that a lot of people might do or might do in their head or and at their own personal thing and it was actually a beautiful moment. It was one of my more favorite moments in the film where Alice says that protection prayer. So yeah, I mean for us, and then after the film was wrapping up, we did get a Catholic priest in there, and Vera found us a very awesome Catholic priest. Vera, you can talk about how hard that was, get somebody in.
Well, actually, yes, it was very difficult, but the priest they ended up coming to the location was through a friend of Alice's. Because Alice found out it was actually, even in that apartment, we were having a hard time finding someone to come over and give Alice some comfort of some sort and have some closure and bless her house and give her that comfort that she needed. Eventually, a friend of hers who happens to be a nun, actually, this is for Alice, and I can be corrected if I'm wrong, but if anyone listening, the way that the Alice told me is that her friend, who's a nun, found out that we were having a hard time finding a priest to come over. So she went to her friend, who happens to be a priest, and said, "You need to go out there. You need to go out there right now." So he was like, "Okay,
I think that's the story. Yeah.
So he's like, "Okay, I won't mess with sister. I can't remember her name. Oh my God.
I can't remember her name. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was like, okay, I'll go. Though. I won't be in trouble. And he arrived, and it ended up being beautiful. I was so happy when he finally arrived. And but strangely, can I say this, Kendall, what happened when he was there? Because
you can. Yeah, we had some technical issues.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, the scene didn't want to happen. Let's put it that way. It kept. Out of all the moments that we had filming, that was the one part that had a lot of technical difficulties and things just weren't going right. It was really interesting. So we wanted to actually have more of that part in the film, but we couldn't because of all the technicality that happened during. So at the end, it worked out. Our editor, Corey, was amazing. He was able to come up with a beautiful way of portraying what we wanted. And then the priest at the end even blessed our project. He blessed it. He threw holy water at Steve's face and Kendall's face.
Yeah, right in our face. And it was awesome. I had never experienced anything like it. And he like takes his water and he blesses Alice. He blesses the house. And then he comes and turns at Steve and he blessed Steve and then he blessed me and then he blessed the camera and then he went over to I have a little work area that wasn't seen on camera with all the hard drives and the your logging footage and organizing things and he blesses the project. He literally blessed the project for us and and it was just really neat, and I think it did help Alice a little bit. I feel like,
of course,
she felt lighter afterwards, and it was really
she
really
looked like she was
it.
glowing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Father Michael O'Brien. I remember that. Father Michael O'Brien. Yes, that's him.
Yeah, he was really nice. Yeah, it was great. So yeah, as far as protection, we took many measures, I guess. Now that we're talking about it. Yeah.
I know we're coming towards the end of the show, but can you tell the audience where they can find the house in between, and if there's any websites you would like to mention?
Yeah, so the best place to find the house in between, it's on 26 platforms, and go to thehouseinbetween.com, and you'll see links to every single place you can view it. The best way to find us is on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, YouTube, Xbox, PlayStation. And then for people overseas, I know you have a big UK following. It's going to be that Vimeo. It's going to be Vimeo On Demand. So search us in that Vimeo On Demand, and you'll find us over there. So, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you both so much for coming on today. It's been great talking to you and hearing more about the documentary.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Very appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Well, yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. You too, for your 9 years. That's a lot of work. We did a podcast for 3 years, and oh boy, that's a lot of work.
Thanks. Yeah. It can be, but it's a lot of fun to do, and I get to meet great people like you.
Oh.
Yeah,
You're
it was
so
a pleasure
sweet.
meeting you.
You're just so sweet.
Thanks. Well, thank you both so much for coming on today, and have a great rest of your weekend.
You too.
Take
care.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
All right, thanks,
Bye, guys.
And the show's open to you both. The show's open to you both anytime you have anything to promote. Well, fantastic show today, Sophia.
Thank you. Yeah, Kendall and Vera were such great guests. I want to thank you all for listening. The show definitely would not be possible without all of you, and I will talk to you guys again next week. Bye.
Not only am I Dave Schrader, but I'm Dave Schrader of Travel Channel's The Holzer Files, and you're listening to host Sophia Temperilli on liveparanormal.com. I feel left out. I wanted to throw myself into your mix of voiceovers now.
I love it. It's almost like we didn't leave break.